It's on.
I'm Lizzie. Mel.
Yeah.
Busy. Yeah.
Were you on tour?
No, I wasn't, but I did come in and cut a couple of times during the weekend just to check my patients, but I wasn't actually.
Yeah, I was. I occasionally science club. Yes, anything
Hi. How are you feeling today? Great? Oh, that's just great. That is not my standard greeting, I assure you. I tend towards something a little more formal, a little less inquisitive, such as, say, hello. But it is the standard greeting here. There is some debate as to the correct response to this salutation. Should one reply, I feel good, using feel as a copulative to link to the subject I, to its subjective complement good, or I feel well, modifying with an adverb the subject's state of being? I don't know. I'm a professor of 17th century poetry, specialising in the holy sonnets of John Donne. So I just say, fine. Of course, it is not very often that I do feel fine. I have been asked, how are you feeling today? Whilst I was throwing up into a plastic wash basin. I have been asked, as I was emerging from a 4-hour operation with tubes in every orifice, how are you feeling today? I am waiting for the moment when somebody asks me that question and I'm dead. I'm a little sorry I'll miss that. It is unfortunate this remarkable line of inquiry has come to me so late in my career. I could have exploited its famed solicitude to great advantage. Whilst I was handing out the final papers to the graduate course on 17th century textual criticism. Hi, how are you feeling today? Of course, I would not be wearing this costume at the time, so the question's ironic significance would not be fully apparent, as I trust it is now. Irony is a literary device that will necessarily be deployed to great effect. I ardently wish this were not so. I would rather that a play about me be cast in the mythic heroic pastoral mode. But the facts, most notably, stage 4 metastatic ovarian cancer, conspires against that. The fairy queen, this is not. And I was dismayed to discover that the play would contain elements of humour. I have, at best, been an unwitting accomplice. It is not my intention to give away the plot, but I think I die in the end. They've given me less than 2 hours. If I were poetically inclined, I might employ a threadbare metaphor. The sands of time slipping through the hourglass. The 2 hourglass. Now our sands are almost run, more a little, and then done. Shakespeare. I trust the name is familiar. However, at the moment I am disinclined to poetry. I've got less than 2 hours. And then, curtain! I'll never forget the time I found out I had cancer.
You have cancer.
See, unforgettable. It was something of a shock. I had to sit down.
Please, sit down. Miss Bearing, you have advanced metastatic ovarian cancer.
Go on.
You are a professor, Miss Bearing?
Like yourself, Dr. Kleekin.
Well, yes. Now, you present with a growth that, unfortunately, went undetected at stages 1, 2, and 3. Now it is insidious.
Insidious?
Insidious means undetectable.
Insidious means treacherous.
Shall I continue?
By all means.
Good. In invasive epithelial carcinoma, the most
Curious
effective
word
treatment modality is a chemotherapy.
Cancer, cancel.
We are developing an experimental
By cancer,
combination of
nature's
drugs
changing
designed for
course
primary
and
side
true.
ovarian with a target
Yes.
specificity of
That's
stage 3
not
and
it.
beyond administration. Am I going too fast?
No.
Good. You will be
Must
hospitalised
read
and
something on
inpatient for
cancer.
treatment each cycle.
Must
You will
get
be
some
on
books.
complete intake and
Articles.
output measurement for
Assemble
3
a
days after
bibliography.
treatment to monitor kidney function.
Is anyone doing research
After
on
the initial
cancer?
8 cycles, you'll have another
Concentrate.
battery of tests. The anti-neoplastic
Anti-neoplastic.
effects on
Anti
cells,
against
including
neo-new.
gastrointestinal
Plastic to mold
tract
shaping.
and the lips, the
Anti-neoplastic
and the
against new
hair
shaping.
follicles.
Hair
We will,
follicles.
of course, be relying on your resolve to have
Resolve?
something more pernicious.
Pernicious, that doesn't seem...
Miss Bearing,
Yes?
do you have any questions so far?
Not so far.
Perhaps some of these terms are new, I realise.
No. You're just being very thorough.
Well, I make a point of it. And I always emphasise it with my students.
So do I. Thoroughness, I always tell my students. But they are constitutionally adverse to painstaking work.
Well, yours too.
It gets worse every year.
Yes, this is not dermatology, it's medical oncology, for Christ's sake.
My students read through a text once. And they think it's time for a break.
Mine are blind.
Well, mine are deaf,
You just have to hope.
I suppose.
Where were we? Dr. Bearing?
I believe I was being thoroughly diagnosed.
Right. Now, this tumour is spreading very quickly and this treatment is very aggressive. So far, so good?
Yes,
Better not teach next semester.
out of the question.
The first week of each cycle you will be hospitalised for chemotherapy. The next 2 weeks you may feel a little tired. The next week should be fine, relatively. This will repeat 8 times, as I said before.
8 months like that?
This treatment is the strongest thing we have to offer you. And as research, it will make significant contribution to our knowledge.
Knowledge. Yes.
Here is the informed consent form. Should you agree, you sign there at the bottom. Is there a family member you want me to explain this to?
That won't be necessary.
Good. The most important thing is you need to take a full dose of chemotherapy. There may be times in which for a lesser dose due to the side effects, but we must go full force. The experimental phase has to have a maximum dose to be of any use. Dr. Barry?
Yes.
You must be very tough. Do you think you can be very tough?
You needn't worry.
Good. Excellent.
I should have asked more questions. Because I know there's going to be a test. I have cancer. Insidious cancer. With pernicious side effects. No. The treatment has pernicious side effects. I have stage 4 metastatic ovarian cancer. There is no stage 5. Oh, and I must be very tough. It appears to be a matter, as the saying goes, of life and death. Now I know all about life and death. I am, after all, a scholar of Donne's Holy Sonnets, which explore mortality in greater depth than any other body of work in the English language. And I know for a fact that I am tough. A demanding professor, uncompromising, never one to turn from a challenge. That is why I chose, whilst a student of the great E.M. Ashford, to study Donne. Professor Ashford?
Do it again.
This was something of a shock. I had to sit down.
Please sit down. Your essay on Holy Sonnet 6, Miss Bearing, is a melodrama with a veneer of scholarship unworthy of you, to say nothing of Donne. Do it again. You must begin with a text, Miss Bearing, not with a feeling. Death, be not proud, though some have called thee mighty and dreadful, for thou art not so. You have entirely missed the point of the poem, because I must tell you, you have used an edition of the text that is inauthentically punctuated. Now, in the Garden
That edition was checked out of the library.
Miss Bearing.
Sorry.
You take this too lightly, Miss Bearing. This is metaphysical poetry, not the modern novel. The standards of scholarship and critical reading which one would apply to any other text are simply insufficient. The efforts must be total for the results to be meaningful. Do you think the punctuation of the last line of this sonnet is merely an insignificant detail? See, the poet begins with a valiant struggle with death, calling on all the forces of intellect and drama to vanquish the enemy. But it is ultimately about overcoming the seemingly insuperable barriers that separate life, death, and eternal life. And the edition you chose, this profoundly simple meaning, is sacrificed to hysterical punctuation. And death, capital D, shall be no more, semicolon, death, capital D, thou shalt die, exclamation point! If you voted for this sort of thing, I would suggest you take up Shakespeare. Now see, the Garden edition returns to the original Westmoreland manuscript of 1610, not for sentimental reasons, I assure you, but because Helen Gardner is a scholar. It reads, and death shall be no more, comma, death thou shalt die. It's nothing but a breath, a comma, that separates life from life everlasting. It is very simple, really. I mean, with the original punctuation restored, death is no longer something to act out on a stage with exclamation points. It's a comma, a pause. But see, this way, the uncompromising way, one learns something from this poem, wouldn't you say? life, death, soul, God, past, present, not insuperable barriers, not semicolons, just a comma.
Life. Death. I see. It's metaphysical conceit. It's wit. I'll go to the library.
No, it is not wit, Miss Bearing. It is truth. The paper's not the point.
It isn't?
Vivian, you're a bright young woman. Use your intelligence. Don't go back to the library. Go out with your friends.
I went outside. The sun was very bright. I walked around. There were students on the lawn talking about nothing. Nothing. The insuperable barrier between one thing and another is just a comma. Simple human truths, uncompromising scholarly standards, they're connected. I couldn't. I went back to the library. Anyway, all right. Significant contribution to knowledge. 8 cycles of chemotherapy. Give me the full dose every time. The attention was flattering for the first 5 minutes. Now I know how poems feel. Name? My name? Vivian Bearing. Huh? Bearing. B-E-A-R-I-N-G. Vivian, V-I-V-I-A-N. Doctor? Yes, I have a PhD.
Your doctor.
Oh, Dr. Harvey Fleetwood. I am a doctor of philosophy.
Take a deep breath and hold it. Okay.
A scholar of 17th century poetry.
Turn sideways, arms behind your head, and hold it. Okay.
I have made an immeasurable contribution to the discipline of English literature. I am, in short, a force. Name? Lucy, Countess of Bedford. I don't see it here. My name is Vivian Bearing, B-E-A-R-I-N-G. Kalikian is my doctor.
Okay, lie down.
After an outstanding undergraduate career, I studied with Professor E.M. Ashford for 3 years, during which time I learned by instruction and example what it means to be a scholar of distinction. As her research fellow, my principal task was the alphabetizing of index cards for Ashford's monumental critical edition on Donne's Devotions upon Emergent Occasions. I am thanked in the preface Miss Vivian Bearing for her able assistance. My dissertation, Ejaculations in 17th Century Printed Editions and Manuscripts of the Holy Sonnets, a comparison, was published in the Journal of English Texts, a very prestigious venue for a first appearance.
Where's your wheelchair?
I don't know, I was busy just now.
Well, how are you going to get out there?
I don't know. Perhaps you'd like me to stay.
Yes, I've got to go find you a chair.
Don't inconvenience yourself on my behalf. My second article, a classic explication of Donne's sonnet, Death Be Not Proud, was published in Critical Discourse. The success of the essay prompted the university press to solicit a volume on the 12 holy sonnets in the 1633 edition, which I produced in the remarkably short span of 3 years. My book, entitled Made Cunningly, remains an immense success, in paper as well as cloth. In it, I devote one chapter to the thorough examination of each sonnet, discussing every word in extensive detail. Here, I summarise previous critical analysis and offer my own interpretations. It is exhausting. Bearing, Bearing, Canadian.
Here. Okay, hold still.
For how long?
Just a moment.
The scholarly study of poetic texts requires a capacity for scrupulously detailed examination, particularly the poetry of John Donne. The salient characteristic of the poems is wit, itchy outbreaks of far-fetched wit, as Donne himself would have said. To the common reader, that is to say the undergraduate with a B+ or better average, wit provides an invaluable exercise in sharpening the mental faculties, in stimulating the flash of comprehension that can only follow hours of exacting and seemingly pointless scrutiny. To the scholar, to the mind comprehensively trained in the subtleties of 17th century vocabulary, versification, and theological, historical, political, and mythical allusions, Donne's wit is a way to see how good you really are. And after 20 years, I can say with confidence, no one is quite as good as I.
Susie.
Oh, hi.
Ready when you are.
Okay, go ahead. Miss Bearing, this is Jason Posner. He's going to do your history. So basically ask you a bunch of questions. He's Dr. Kleekian's fellow.
Professor Bearing, I'm Dr. Jason Posner, clinical fellow in the medical oncology branch. I work with Dr. Kleekian. Professor Bearing, I was an undergraduate at the U. I took your course on 17th century poetry.
You did?
Yes, I thought it was excellent.
Thank you. Were you an English major?
No. Biochemistry. But you can't get into medical school unless you're well-rounded. And I made a bet with myself that I could get an A in the 3 hardest courses on campus.
How'd you do, Jace?
Success.
Really?
A-. It was a very hard course, I'll call you. Okay, Professor Bearing, just bring this round here. Get the proximities right. Okay, Professor Bearing, I'm going to be taking your history. It's a medical interview, and then I'll give you an exam.
I believe Dr. Kleekian's already done that.
Yes, well, Dr. Kleekian wants me to do it too. Now, I'll be taking a few notes as we go along.
Very well.
Okay, how are you feeling today?
Fine. Thank you.
Good. How is your general health?
Fine.
Excellent. Now, we know you're an academic.
Yes, we've established that.
So we don't need to talk about your interesting work.
No.
How old are you?
50.
Are you married?
No.
Are your parents living?
No.
How and when did they die?
My father when I was 20, suddenly of a heart attack. My mother when I was 41 and 42, slowly, of cancer, breast cancer.
Cancer?
Breast cancer.
I see. Any siblings?
No,
Any questions so far?
not so far.
Okay, well, that about does it for your life history.
Yes, that's all there is to my life's history.
Now, I'm going to be asking you about your past medical history. Have you ever been hospitalised?
I had my tonsils out when I was 8.
Have you ever been pregnant?
No,
Ever had heart murmurs, high blood pressure?
no,
Stomach, liver, kidney problem?
no,
Venereal disease, uterine infection?
no,
Thyroid, diabetes, cancer?
no, cancer, yes.
Cancer? When?
Now.
Not including now.
In that case, no.
Clinical depression, nervous breakdown, suicide
No.
attempts. Do you smoke?
No.
Ethanol.
I'm sorry?
Alcohol.
Oh, ethanol. Yes, I drink wine.
How much, how often?
A glass with dinner occasionally and perhaps a scotch now and
Do
then.
you use substances?
Such as...
Cocaine, crack cocaine, PCP, marijuana, ecstasy?
No.
Do you drink caffeinated beverages?
Oh, yes.
Which one?
Coffee. A few cups a day.
How many?
2 to 6. I mean, I hardly think that's a moderation.
How often do you undergo routine medical checkups?
Well, not as often as I should, probably. But I felt fine, I really have.
So the answer is?
Every 3 to 5 years.
I see. What do you do for exercise?
Pace.
Are you having sexual relations?
Not at the moment.
Are you pre or postmenopausal?
Pre.
When was the first day of your last period?
10 days. 2 weeks ago.
Okay, when did you first notice your current complaint?
This time now.
Yes.
About 4 months ago. I felt a pain in my stomach, in my abdomen. Like a cramp, but not the same.
But how did that feel?
Like a cramp.
But not the same.
No, stronger, duller. I don't know.
What came next?
Well, I don't know. I started noticing things. My body. I'd be teaching and feel a sharp pain.
What kind of pain?
Sharp. And sudden. And then it would go away. Or I'd be tired, exhausted. I was working on a major project, an article on John Donne for the Oxford Encyclopedia of English Literature. It was a great honour. But I had a very strict deadline.
So you would say you're under a lot of stress?
It wasn't so much more stress than usual, just that I couldn't withstand it this time.
And so?
So I went to Dr. Chin, my gynaecologist, after I turned in the paper and explained all of this. She examined me and sent me to Jefferson the internist, who sent me to Kalikian because he thought I might have a tumour.
And that's it?
Till now.
Well, that's very interesting. I guess we'll start the exam. It'll only take a few minutes. Why don't you sort of lie back and relax? Okay, if I just bring this round here. Okay, got your legs up. There. Now, got to get Susie. Got to have a girl in here. Some crazy clinical rule. I'll be right back. Don't move.
I wish I'd given him an A. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 3 is 6. 2... Death, be not proud, for some have called thee mighty and dreadful, for thou art not so. For those whom thou think'st, thou dost overthrow. Die not, poor death, nor yet canst thou kill me.
Has anyone seen Susie?
Thou art slave to fate, chance, kings, and desperate men, and dost with poison, war, and sickness dwell. And poppy and charms will make us sleep as well, and better than thy stroke. Why swell'st thou then?
She was here just a minute ago.
1 short sleep past, we wake eternally. And death shall be no more, comma. Death, thou shalt die.
Everything's here now, okay?
What's this? Why did you leave her?
Well, I had to find June now, come on. Okay, everything's ready, Professor Bearing. Just get these on. Okay. Lift this up. Okay. Just relax. Isn't that interesting, Susie, how I had Professor Bearing?
Yeah, I wish I'd have taken some literature. I don't know anything about poetry.
Yeah, she was very highly regarded on campus. It looked very good on my transcript to have taken her course. They even asked me about it in my interview for med school. Jesus.
What?
I survived Bearing's course, no problem. John Donne, those metaphysical poets, that metaphysical wit. Hardest poetry in the English department. Like to see them try biochemistry. We're about done there now, Professor Bearing. Why don't you just bring your legs down there? Okay, brilliant. I've got to go.
That was hard. That was... One thing can be said for an 8-month course of chemotherapy. It is highly educational. I am learning to suffer. Yes, it is mildly uncomfortable to have an electrocardiogram, but Annie, proctosigmoidoscopy, sweeps it from memory. Yes, it was embarrassing to have to wear a nightgown all day long. 2 nightgowns. But that seemed like a positive privilege to watching myself go forward. Yes, having a former student of mine was thoroughly degrading. And I use that term literally. But I could not have imagined the depths of humiliation that... Oh, God. Oh, God. Steady. What's left? I haven't eaten in 2 days. What's left to puke? You may remark that my vocabulary has taken a turn for the Anglo-Saxon. God, I'm going to barf my brains out. If I did really barf my brains out, it would be a great loss to my discipline. Of course, not a few too many of my colleagues would be relieved, to say nothing of my students. Oh, it's not that I'm controversial, just uncompromising. False alarm. If word went round that Vivian Bearing had barfed her brains out, well, first, my colleagues, most of whom are former students, would scramble madly for my position. Then their consciences would flare up. So, to honour my memory, they put together a collection of their essays on John Donne. The volume would begin with a warm introduction, capturing my most endearing qualities. It would be short, but sweet. Published and perished. Now watch this. I have to press this button to get someone to come and measure this emesis and record it on a chart of my intake and output. This counts as output.
How are you doing, Miss Bearing? You having some nausea?
Yes.
Why don't I take that?
It's about 300 cc's.
That all?
It was very hard work.
Yeah, 300. Good guess. Okay. Is there anything else I can get for you? Some jello or anything?
Thank you, no.
You okay all by yourself here?
Fine, thank you.
Not having a lot of visitors, are you?
None, to be precise.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Is there someone you want me to call for you, or...?
No, that won't be necessary.
Well, I'll just pop my head in every once in a while, see how you're coming along. And Kalikian and the fellow should be along soon anyway. If you need anything, just ring.
Thank you.
Okay, that's cool.
In this dramatic structure, you will see the most interesting aspects of my tenure as an inpatient receiving experimental chemotherapy for advanced metastatic ovarian cancer. But because I am a scholar before an impresario, I feel obliged to document what it is like here most of the time, between the dramatic climaxes, between the spectacles. In truth, it is like this. You cannot imagine how time can be so still. It hangs, it weighs, and yet there is so little of it. It goes so slowly. And yet it is so scarce. If I were writing this scene, it would last a full 15 minutes. I would lie here, and you would sit there. Not to worry. Brevity is the soul of wit. But if you think 8 months of cancer treatment is tedious for the audience, consider how it feels to play my part. Anyway, all right. It's Friday morning. Grand rounds. Action.
Bearing.
Dr. Gleeson.
Jason? How are you feeling today, Professor Bearing?
Fine, thank you.
That's great, that's great.
Grand rounds. The term is theirs. Not grand as in sweeping or
Very late
magnificent.
detection.
Not rounds as in musical rounds or rounds of applause. Although either would be refreshingly put.
300 milligrams per metre squared.
Here rounds
at
seem to
100.
signify darting
Today
around
is
the
cycle 2,
nation,
day 3.
which I
Both
suppose
cycles
would be the
have the
struggle
full
for life.
The primary
My-
site is here, behind the left
With
ovary.
heated discussions of
Metastasis
side
is
effects,
suspected in the
additional
peritoneal cavities
treatments,
here
other
and
complaints.
here. Full lymphatic
Grand rounds
involvement.
is
At the
not
time of
grand
plastic
opera.
surgery,
But
significant
compared to mine
tumor
here,
was
it is
deep
positively dramatic.
mainly in this area.
Full of
and here.
subservience,
Left, right,
hierarchy,
ovaries, fallopian tubes,
gratuitous
uterus,
displays,
all that.
sublimation
Evidence of
rivals.
primary site shrinkage.
I feel
The
that's
shrinking in the
It's just like a graduate seminar.
documented.
With
Primary
one
mass frankly
important
helpful in
difference.
the pelvic exam.
In
Frankly,
grand rounds,
here
they
and
read me
here.
like a book. One side of the teaching, now I'm taught. This is much easier. I just have to sit here and look cancerous. It requires less acting every time. Excellent command of details.
Excellent command of details.
I totally know.
Okay, problem there is effects in Vin.
Well, first, of course, is myelosuppression, a lowering of the blood cell count. Well, it goes without saying, with this combination of agents, nephrotoxicity will be next.
Go on.
Well, the kidneys are designed to filter out impurities from the bloodstream. In trying to filter out the chemotherapeutic agents from the bloodstream, the kidneys shut down.
Intervention.
Hydration.
Monitoring.
A full recording of fluids intake and output. As you can see on these graphs, to monitor hydration and kidney function. Totals monitored daily by the clinical fellow as per protocol.
Anybody else? Side effects?
Nausea and vomiting.
Jason?
It's routine.
Pain or urine?
Routine.
Psychological depression.
No way.
Anything else? Other complaints affecting methylphosphocil and vinplatin. Come on.
Mouth sores? Skin rash?
Not yet.
Why do we waste our time, Dr. Bearing?
I do not know, Dr. Cleaton.
Use your eyes. Jesus God. Hair loss.
Oh, come on.
It's obvious.
Jason?
Hair loss after the first cycle of treatment.
That's better. Dr. Bearing, full dose. Excellent. Keep pushing the fluid. Jason?
What?
Medical?
Thank you, Professor Bearing. You've been highly cooperative.
Wasn't that grand? At times, this obsessively detailed examination, this scrutiny, seems to be a nefarious business. On the other hand, what is the alternative? Ignorance? Ignorance may be bliss, but it's not a very noble goal. So I play my part. I receive chemotherapy, throw up, am subject to countless indignities, feel better, go home. 8 cycles, 8 neat little strokes. Oh, there have been the usual variations, subplots, red herrings, hepatotoxicity, liver poison, neuropathy, nerve death. These are medical terms. I look them up. It has always been my custom to treat words with respect. I can remember the hour, the very day, when I knew words would be my life's work. It was my 5th birthday. I like that one best.
Read another.
I think I'll read The Tale of the Flopsy Bunnies. The Tale of the Flopsy Bunnies. It has little bunnies on the front. Tale of the Flopsy Bunnies by Beatrix Potter. It is said that the effect of eating too much lettuce is what is that word?
Sound it out.
Soporific. Soporific. What does that mean?
Soporific. Causing sleep.
Causing sleep?
makes you sleepy?
Soporific means makes you sleepy.
Correct.
Soporific means makes you sleepy. Soporific.
Now, use it in a sentence. What has a soporific effect on you?
A soporific effect on me?
What makes you sleepy?
Nothing.
Correct.
What about you?
What has a soporific effect on me? Let me think. Boring conversation, I suppose, after dinner.
Me too. Boring conversation.
Carry on.
It is said that the effect of eating too much lettuce is soporific. The little bunnies in the picture are asleep. They're sleeping, like you said, because of soporific. The illustration bore out the meaning of the word, just as he had explained it. At the time, it seemed like magic. So imagine the effect the words of John Donne first had on me. Ratiocination, concatenation, coercition, tergiversation. Medical words are less evocative. Still, I want to know what the doctors mean when they anatomise me. And I will grant that in this particular field of endeavour they possess a much more potent arsenal of terminology than I. My only defence is the acquisition of vocabulary. It's really for me to be here. I was at home. Oh, I felt so bad. I called. They said to come in. Even neutropenia.
Somebody drive you?
Cab. Taxi.
Sit down for a minute. I'll get Jason. You can call my open. Okay. We'll get him to give you some meds, okay? Grab those for the night. I'll make sure you get to bed soon. I'll get you some juice, alright? Some nice juice with lots of ice.
Light! I left on the lights at home.
Don't worry, it's alright.
How are you feeling today, Professor Bearing?
My teeth are chattering.
Vitals?
10, 39.4, pulse 120, respiration 36, chills and sweating.
Fever and neutropenia. It's a shake and bake. Blood cultures and urine stat. Admit her, prepare her for reverse isolation, start to on acetaminophen.
Jason, I think you need to talk to Kalikin about lowering the dose for the next cycle. It's too much for her.
Lower the dose. No, full dose. Look, she can take it. She's tough. Wake me up when the counts come from the lab.
Good morning, Dr. Bearing. Full dose, fifth cycle, definite progress, everything okay?
Yes.
You're doing so well. Isolation is no problem, couple of days, think there's vacation.
Oh.
Jason?
Yeah? Oh, Jesus, sorry.
In isolation. I am isolated. For once, I can use a term literally. The chemotherapeutic agents eradicating my cancer have also eradicated my immune system. In my present condition, every living thing is a health hazard to me.
No, I really haven't got time for this.
Particularly healthcare professionals.
Just to look at the R&O sheets for 1 minute. It takes me half an hour to do precautions. 7, 11, 255. Brilliant. Oh, Jesus Christ, clinical. How are you feeling today, Professor Bearing?
Fine. Just shaking a little from the chills.
Oh, IV will kick in any time now. It's no problem. Look, I've got to go. Keep pushing the fluids.
I am not in isolation because I have cancer. Because I have a tumour the size of a grapefruit. No. I am in isolation because I am receiving treatment for cancer. My treatment imperils my health. Herein lies the paradox. John Donne would revel in it. I would revel in it if he wrote a poem about it. My students would flounder in it. Because paradox is too difficult to understand. Think of it as a puzzle, I would tell you. An intellectual game. Or I would have told them, were it a game, which it is not. If they were here, if I were teaching, how I would perplex them. Every ambiguity, every shifting awareness. I could draw so much from these poems. I could be so powerful. The poetry of the early 17th century, what has been called the metaphysical school, examines an intractable mental puzzle by exercising the outstanding human faculty of the era, namely wit. The greatest wit, the greatest English poet, some might say, was John Donne. In his poems, Donne applies his capacious, agile wit to the larger aspects of human experience. Life, death, and God. In his poems, metaphysical quandaries are addressed, but never resolved. Ingenuity, virtuosity, and a vigorous intellect that jousts with the most exalted concepts. These are the tools of wit. If poisonous minerals, and if that tree, whose fruit through death on else immortal us, if lecherous goats, if serpents envious, cannot be damned, alas, why should I be? Why should intent or reason born in me make sins else equal in me more heinous? And mercy being easy and glories to God, in his stern wrath, why threatens he? But who am I that dare dispute with thee? O God, O, of thy only worthy blood, and my tears will make a heavenly Lethean flood, and drown in it my sin's black memory. That thou remember them, some claim as dead. I think it mercy if thou wilt forget. Aggressive intellect, pious melodrama, and a final fearful point. Donne's Holy Sonnet 5, 1609, from the Ashford edition based on Gardner. The speaker of the sonnet has a brilliant mind, and he plays his part convincingly. But in the end, he finds God's forgiveness hard to understand. So he crawls under a rock to hide. If arsenics and serpents cannot be damned, then why is he? In asking the question, the speaker turns eternal damnation into an intellectual game. Why would God choose to do what is hard, to condemn, rather than what is easy and also glorious, to show mercy? Several scholars have disputed Ashford's third comma in line 6, but none convincingly. But exception, limitation, contrast. The argument shifts between cleverness and melodrama and an unconvincing eruption of piety. Oh, God, oh. A typical prayer would plead, remember me, O God. This point is nicely explicated in an article by Richard Stryer, a former student of mine who once sat where you do now, though I dare say he was awake. In the May 1989 edition of Modern Philology, true believers ask to be remembered by God. The speaker of this sonnet asks God to forget. Where is the hyperactive intellect of the first section? Where is the histrionic outpouring of the second? When the speaker considers his own sins and the inevitability of God's judgment, he can conceive of but one resolution: to disappear. Doctrine assures us that no sinner is denied forgiveness, not even one whose sins are overweening intellect and overwrought dramatics. The speaker does not need to hide from God, only to accept God's forgiveness. It is very simple. Suspiciously simple. We want to correct the speaker, to remind him of the assurance of salvation. But it is too late. The poetic encounter is over. We are left to our own consciences. Have we outwitted Donne? Or have we been outwitted?
Miss Bearing?
Will the poems...
Miss Bearing?
What is it?
You have to go down for a test. Jason just called. They want another ultrasound. They're concerned about a bowel obstruction. Is it okay if I come in?
No, not right now.
I'm sorry, but they want it now.
It's not supposed to be now.
Yes, they want to do it now. I've got the chair.
It shouldn't be now. I'm in the middle of this. I have this planned for now. Not an ultrasound. No more tests. We've covered that.
No, I know, but they do really need for it to be now. It won't take long. It's not about a procedure. Why don't you just come along?
Don't want to go now!
Miss Bearing.
Name?
Vivian Bearing, Cleveland.
It will just be a minute.
Time for your break.
Yep.
Take it. This is my play's last scene. Here heavens appoint my pilgrimage's last mile. And my race, idly yet quickly run, hath had its last pace. My span's last stitch, my minute's last point, and gluttonous death will instantly upjoint my body and soul. John Donne, 1609. I've always particularly liked that poem, in the abstract. Now I find the image of my minute's last point a little too, shall we say, pointed. I do not mean to complain, but I am becoming very sick. Very, very sick. Ultimately sick, as it were. In everything I have done, I have been steadfast, resolute, some would say in the extreme. But now, as you can see, I am distinguishing myself in illness. I have survived 8 cycles of hexamethylphosphoryl and vinplatin at the full dose, ladies and gentlemen. I have broken the record. I have become something of a celebrity. Jason and Kalikin are simply delighted. I think they foresee celebrity status for themselves upon the appearance of a journal that they will no doubt write about me. Although, I flatter myself, it will not be about me. It will be about my ovaries. It will be about my peritoneal cavity, which, despite their best intentions, is now crawling with cancer. What we have come to think of as me is merely the specimen jar, the dust jacket, the white piece of paper bearing the little black marks. My next line is supposed to go something like this. It is such a relief to get back to my room after those infernal tests. This is hardly true. It would be a relief to be a cheerleader on her way to Daytona Beach for spring break. To get back to my room after those infernal tests is just the next thing that happens. Oh, it is such a relief to get back to my room after those goddamn tests.
Professor Bearing, just want to check the hour now. 4:56. 5. Okay, how are you feeling today?
Fine.
That's great. Just great.
How are my fluids?
Pretty good. There's no kidney involvement yet. That's pretty amazing for Hex and Vim.
How will you know when the kidneys are involved?
Lots of in, not much out.
That's simple.
No. No, compromised kidney function's a highly complex reaction. I'm simplifying it for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're supposed to.
Bedside manner?
Yeah. There's a whole course on it in med school. It's a colossal waste of time for researchers.
I can imagine. Jason?
Yeah.
What were you saying just now?
When?
Oh, never mind.
Professor Bearing,
Yes?
are you experiencing confusion, short-term memory loss?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes. I was just wondering. Why cancer?
Why cancer?
Why not open heart surgery?
Ah. Yeah, no. Why not run a lube rack? Why not plumbing? For all the surgeons know about Homo sapiens sapiens. No, cancer is the only thing I ever wanted. No, really. Cancer is... Well,
Awesome.
yeah. It is. Cancer is awesome. How does it do it? The intercellular regulatory mechanisms, especially for proliferation and differentiation. The malignant neoplasia, they just don't get it. You grow normal cells in tissue culture in the lab. They'll replicate just enough to make a nice, confluent monolayer. They'll replicate 20 times or 50 times, but eventually they will conk out. But you take cancer cells, and, well, they never stop. There's no contact inhibition whatsoever. They pile up, keep replicating forever. It's got a funny name. Do you know what it is?
No, what?
Immortality in culture.
Sounds like a symposium.
Well, it's an error in judgment in a molecular way. But why? You see, even on the protistic level, the normal cell-cell interactions are so subtle, they'll take your breath away. Golden brown algae, for instance, the lowest multicellular life form on Earth, and, well, they're idiots. And it is incredible. It is perfect. So, what's up with the cancer cells? You know, the smartest guys in the world, they've got the best labs, all the funding, and, well, they don't know what to make of it.
And what about you?
Me? I've got a few ideas. things I'm kicking around. Wait till I get a lab of my own, yeah? If I can survive this fellowship.
The part with the human beings.
Yeah. Everyone's got to go through it. All the great researchers. They want us to be able to converse intelligently with clinicians. You know, as if the researchers were the impediments. The clinicians are such troglodytes. They're so smarmy that, well, we have to hold hands to discuss Chris and I'm clearance. Just cut the crap!
Are you going to be sorry when I... Do you ever miss people?
Everyone asks that, especially girls.
And what do you tell them?
I tell them yes.
And are they persuaded?
Some.
Some. I see. And what would you say when a patient is apprehensive? Frightened?
Of who?
Oh, never mind.
Professor Bearing,
Yes.
who is the President of the United States?
I'm fine. Really, it's all right.
Are you sure? Because I could order a test.
No. No. I'm fine.
Okay, well, look, I've got to go. Keep pushing the fluids. Try for 2,000 a day, okay?
Okay. To use your words. Okay. So, the young doctor, like the senior scholar, prefers research to humanity. At the same time, the senior scholar, in her simpering state as a pathetic victim, wishes the young doctor would take more of an interest in personal contact. Now I suppose we will see, through a series of flashbacks, how the senior scholar ruthlessly denied her simpering student the touch of human kindness she now seeks. How then would you characterise you?
Huh?
How would you characterise the animating force of this sonnet?
Huh?
In this sonnet, what is the principal poetic device? I'll give you a hint. It has nothing to do with football. What propels this sonnet? Did I say, you are so young? You are 19 years old. You don't know a sonnet from a steak sandwich. By no means. You can either come to this class prepared, or you can excuse yourself from this class, this department, and this university. Do not think for a moment that I will tolerate anything in between. I was teaching him a lesson. So, we have another instance of John Donne's agile wit at work. Not so much resolving the issues between life and God, but revelling in their complexities.
But why?
Why what?
Why does Donne have to make everything so complicated? Really, why?
You know, somebody asked me that question every year, and it was always one of the smart ones. What could I say? What do you think?
I think it's like he's hiding. I think he's confused. I don't know. Perhaps he's scared, so he hides behind all this complicated stuff. He hides behind the wit.
Hides behind wit.
As if it was something. If it was something he was more sure of, he could say it more simply. It doesn't have to be such a big brain. It doesn't have to be such a performance. It doesn't have to be such a big deal.
Perhaps he is suspicious of simplicity.
Perhaps. That's pretty stupid.
That observation, despite its infelicitous phrasing, contained the seed of a perspicacious remark. Such an unlikely occurrence left me with two options. I could draw it out, Or I could let the brain rest after this heroic attempt. If I pursued, there was the chance of great insight. Or undergraduate banality. I never could predict. Go on.
Well, if he's trying to figure out God and the meaning of life and big stuff like that, why does he keep running away, you know?
So far, so good. But they can only think for themselves so long before they begin to self-destruct.
Like, the more you hide, the less... Oh, wait. And the closer you are, though you don't know it, and the simple thing is there... Do you know what I mean?
I distinctly remember an exchange between two of my students during my lecture on pronunciation and scansion. I overheard them on my way out of class. They were young and bright, gathering their books, talking, and laughing at the expense of 17th century poetry. At my expense. To scan the line properly, we must take advantage of contemporary flexibility in I-O-N endings, like expansion. The quatrain stands, Our two souls, therefore, which are one, though I must go, endure not yet a breach, but an expand Sion, like gold to airy thinness beat. Bear this in mind in your reading. That's all for today.
I hope I can get used to this pronunciation. You know, I hope I can survive this course and make it to graduation.
That was a witty little exchange. It possessed the mental acuity I would praise in a poetic text. But I admired only the studied application of wit, not its spontaneous eruption.
Professor Bearing, can I talk to you for a minute?
You may.
I need to ask for an extension on my paper.
Don't tell me your grandmother died.
You knew.
It was a guess.
I have to go home.
Do what you will, but the paper is due when it is due. I don't know. I feel so much... What is the word? I look back at these scenes and it was late at night. The graveyard shift. Susie was on. I could hear her in the hall. I wanted her to come and see me. So I had to create a little emergency. Nothing too dramatic. It worked.
Miss Bearing?
Is that you peeping at 4 in the morning? Did this wake you up? I'm sorry, it just gets occluded sometimes.
I was awake.
You well? What's the trouble, sweetheart?
Do not think for a moment that I let anybody call me sweetheart. But this time I allowed it. I don't know.
Can't sleep?
No. I just keep thinking.
Yeah, if you do that too much, you can get kind of confused.
I know. I'm in a quandary. Having these out.
What you're doing is very hard.
Hard things are what I like best.
But it's not the same. It's like it's out of control, isn't it?
I'm scared.
Of course you are.
I want.
I know. It's hard.
I just don't feel sure of myself anymore.
And you used to feel sure.
Yes. Very sure.
Vivian, I know. I know it hurts. I know. It's all right. Vivian, would you like a popsicle?
Yes, please.
I'll get one for you. I'll be right back.
The epithelial cells in my GI tract have been killed off by the cancer. The cold popsicle feels good. It is something I can digest. And it keeps me hydrated. For your information. Thank you. Here.
You sure?
Yes.
When I was a kid, we used to get these from a truck. Man would come round and ring his bell. We'd all run over. Then we'd sit on the curb and eat our popsicles. Pretty profound, huh?
It sounds nice.
Vivian, there's something we need to talk about. You need to think about.
My cancer's not getting cured, is it? They never thought it would.
Well, they thought the drugs would make the tumour get smaller, and it has gotten a lot smaller. But the problem is, it's started in new places too. They gained a lot for their research, and it was the best thing they had to give you, the strongest drugs. There just isn't a good treatment for what you have yet for advanced ovarian. I'm sorry, they should have explained this to you.
And you.
He did.
I read between the lines.
What you need to think about is your code status. What you want them to do if your heart stops. Well, you can be full code, which means that if your heart stops, they'll call a code blue. Code team will come in, resuscitate you, and take you up to intensive care until you stabilise again. Or you can be do not resuscitate. So if your heart stops, we'll just let it. You'll be DNR. And you can think about this. I just wanted to present both choices before Jason and Kalikian talked to you.
You don't agree on this?
Well, they like to save lives. So anything's okay as long as life continues. It doesn't matter if you're hooked up to 1 million machines. Kalikian is a great researcher and everything, and the fellows like Jason are really smart. It's an honour for them to work with him. But they always want to know more things.
I always want to know more things. I'm a scholar. Or I was a scholar. When I had shoes. When I had eyebrows.
Well, that's fine. You'll be full code. That's okay.
No. Don't complicate the matter.
Oh, it's okay. It's up to you.
Let it stop.
Really?
Yes.
So if your heart stops beating...
Just let it stop.
you're sure?
Yes.
Okay. I'll get Kalikian to give the order and then...
Susie. Yeah. You're still going to look after me, aren't you?
Of course, sweetheart. Don't worry.
Well, that certainly was a maudlin display. Popsicles. Sweetheart. I can't believe my life has become so... corny. But it can't be helped. I can't see any other way. We are discussing life and death, and not in the abstract. We are discussing my life and my death. And my brain is going. And poor Susie's was never too sharp to begin with. And I can't conceive of any other tone. Oh, now is not the time for verbal sword plays, for unlikely fights of imagination, for metaphysical conceit, for wit. Oh, and nothing could be worse than a detailed scholarly analysis. Erudition, interpretation, complication. Now is the time for simplicity. Now is the time for, dare I say it, kindness. I thought being extremely smart would take care of it. But I see I've been found out. I'm scared. I want to hide. I want to curl up into a little ball. I want to explain it to you. To tell you how it feels. To use my words. It's like I can't. There aren't any. It's like I'm a student and this is the final exam. And I don't understand the question, and I am running out of time. The time for extreme measures has come. I am in terrible pain. Susie says I'm to begin aggressive pain management if I'm to withstand it. It. Such a little word. But here, I think it signifies being alive. I apologise in advance for what this palliative treatment modality does to the dramatic coherence of my play's last scene. It can't be helped. They have to do something. I am in terrible pain.
patient-controlled analgesic. It's a little pump. You push a little button and you decide exactly how much medication you want. It's up to you, okay?
Dr. Bearing, Susie?
Time for patient-controlled analgesic. The pain's killing her.
Bearing, are you in pain?
I don't believe this. Am I in pain? Yes, I am in goddamn pain! I have a fever of 101, spiking at 104. I have bone metastases in my pelvic of both fevers. This cancer is eating away at my goddamn bones, and I didn't know there could be so much pain on earth. Oh, God.
I want a morphine drip.
What about patient-controlled? She could be more alert.
Ordinarily, yes, in this case, no.
But
She's earned to rest. Dr. Bearing, try to relax. We're going to help you through this. Don't worry. Dr. Bearing? Excellent.
Hi. How are you feeling today? These are my last coherent lines. I'll have to leave the action to the professionals. It came so quickly after taking so long. Not even time for a proper conclusion. And death, capital D, shall be no more. Semicolon. Death, capital D, thou shalt die! Exclamation point! I'm sorry. I trust this will have a soporific effect.
I don't know about that, but it sure makes you sleepy. What? What's it going on? What?
Soporific means makes you sleepy.
It does?
Yes.
Well, that was pretty dumb.
No, it was funny.
I guess in a dumb sort of way. Well, I'm glad you explained that. I never would have gotten it.
I'm a teacher.
Oh yeah, she was a great scholar. She wrote tons of books, articles, the head of everything. 7, 11, 250 twice. Okay, let's up the hydration. She's not going to be drinking anymore. See if we can keep her kidneys from fading. Yeah, I had a lot of respect for her. She's more than can be said for the entire biochemistry department.
What do you want, dextrose or...?
Give her saline. Yeah, she gave a hell of a lecture. No notes. Not a word out of place. It was very impressive. A lot of students hated her though.
Why?
Well, she wasn't exactly a cupcake.
She's not exactly a cupcake here either. Miss Bearing, Jason and I are here and we're going to insert a catheter to collect your urine. It's not going to hurt, don't worry.
Like she can hear you.
It's just nice to do.
8 cycles of Hex and Vin at the full dose. Kalikian didn't think it was possible. Wish they could all get through it at full throttle, then we'd really have some data.
She's not what I imagined. I always thought someone who studied poetry would be sort of dreamy, you know?
No, not the way she did it. It was more like a boot camp than an English class. This guy, John Donne, he's incredibly intense. Like, your brain had to be in knots for you to understand it.
What, he made it hard on purpose?
Well, it had to do with the subject. The holy sonnets, which we worked on most, they were mainly to do with salvation anxiety. It's a term I made up in one of my papers, but I think it fits. Salvation anxiety. You're this brilliant guy. Really, really brilliant. Like you make Shakespeare sound like a Hallmark card. And you know you're a sinner. But there's this promise of salvation, the whole religious thing. But you just can't deal with it.
How come?
Well, it doesn't stand up to scrutiny. But you can't live without it either. So you write these screwed up little sonnets. Everything's brilliantly convoluted. It's really tricky stuff. Bouncing off the walls. Like a game. To make the puzzle so complicated, you know?
What happens in the end?
Well, in the end, what?
To John Donne, does he ever get it?
Get what?
His salvation anxiety, does he ever understand?
No. Look, the puzzle takes over. You're not even trying to solve it anymore. It's fascinating, really. Great training for lab research, looking at things at increasing levels of complexity.
To what?
So, what do you mean?
Where does it end? Don't you get to solve the puzzle?
No, look, when it comes right down to it, research is about trying to quantify the complications of the puzzle.
But you help people, you save lives and stuff.
Yes, I will save some guy's life and then the poor slob gets hit by a bus.
Yeah, I guess so. I just don't think of it that way. Guess you can tell I never took a class in poetry.
Look, if there's one thing that we learnt in 17th century poetry, it's that you can forget about all the sentimental stuff. Enzyme kinetics was more poetic than Bearing's class. Besides, you can't worry about the meaning of life garbage all the time, you go nuts.
Do you believe in it?
Believe in what?
Oh, I don't know, the meaning of life garbage.
What do they teach her in nursing school? Look, she's out here. It shouldn't be too much longer. Are you done here?
Oh, yeah, I'll just tidy up.
Yeah, I'll see you later.
Vivian? Vivian? It's Evelyn. Vivian?
Professor Ashford? God.
I was in town visiting my grandson, who was celebrating his 5th birthday. I came to see you at your office and they directed me here. I've been walking all over town. I've forgotten how early it gets chilly here.
I feel so bad.
I know. I can see. Oh, Vivian. Oh, dear. It's a windy day. Don't worry, dear. Now let's see. Shall I recite something to you? Would you like that? Yes. I'll recite something by Donne. No?
No.
Very well. Let's see. Shh. Little Geoffrey is very sweet. He gets into everything. Let's see. It's The Runaway Bunny by Margaret Wise Brown. Pictures by Clement Hurd. Copyright 1942, First Harbour Trophy Edition 1972. Once there was a little bunny who wanted to run away. So he said to his mother, "I am running away." "If you run away," said his mother, "I will run after you, for you are my little bunny." "If you run away from me," said the little bunny, "I will become a fish in a trout stream and I will swim away from you." "If you become a fish in a trout stream," said his mother, "I will become a fisherman and fish for you." See, look at that, it's a little allegory for the soul. So no matter where it hides, God will find it. Do you see, Vivian? "If you become a fisherman," said the little bunny, "I will become a bird and fly away from you." "Or if you become a bird," said his mother, "I will be the tree that you come home to." It's very clever. "Shucks," said the little bunny, "I might just as well stay here and be your little bunny." And he did. "Have a carrot," said his mother. It's wonderful. It's time to go. And flight of angels sing to thy rest.
are you feeling today, Professor Bearing? 3 p.m. IV hydration total. 1,000 in, 30 out. Uh-oh, that's it, the kidneys have gone. Professor Bearing? I'm unresponsive. Professor... Wait a sec. Jesus Christ, call a code! Code 4575, code blue room 707, code blue room 707, Dr. Jason Posner, hurry up! Come on.
What are you doing?
I've got no code, get over it!
She's
Research!
no code!
Damn it,
There's
Susan!
no code! Jason, Collegium put the order and you saw it! You were right there! Got the code! 4575, cancel code room 707, cancel code room 707.
Stop! Over here! It's a mistake!
It's here! Stop! Patient is lying up!
I've got it!
Stop!
Get out!
Stop! No! Children, the order!
Move it!
Do not resuscitate it! Stop! Patient is DNR!
Stop!
Patient is DNR!
I made a mistake!
Patient is no code! Post! Who the hell are you? Suit Monaghan, primary now! Chart!
What's going on? You stop?
Do not resuscitate, please. Patient is no code. Shit, wait. Order was put in yesterday.
It's a doctor fucker.
What is the resident?
If it goes up, I'm going to dig it up.
Put a code on a no code.